are different from people in New England, or different than people in Washington State, but there's this commonality of what you see in this room right now. So you'll know what to do. And you never trust a person who says that they know what you should do. Do you know what I mean? Leadership today is not top down. It's about holding the space for the brilliance of everybody. And then I can share with one another my faith that you will do great things. My assumption. Rather than, oh, you might be wounded. It was really, I mean, I wrote those books. I understand it now. We have gone too far with something. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. You've been coming into my morning box for many, many years, so to hear your articulation on so many issues, I'm really grateful. It just feels like the conversations we need to be having on kind of every level.
Mm-hmm.
So many years ago, I sent my son, and related to your conversation very much, Marianne, Mom, don't send me this Marianne stuff. About a month ago, he goes, hey Mom, you know, there's this really cool person. So at some point, and you know, he is also as frozen as your son. So, you know, thank you. We
Thank
all
you.
need
So
to
when
be
he
those.
said that, was he saying it from the political? Because a lot of times the parents, no, he was saying it from the spiritual.
No, both.
Oh, that's really nice.
So heart math, I know you know about
Yeah,
heart
very
math.
much.
You know, I've taught him that, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I see that with parents, and then they argue, oh, no, that's not the same Marianne. I've been telling you for years, no, she's another person. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's both and. It's
Yeah.
both and is what Martin Luther King says. You know what Martin Luther King also said? He said, the desegregation of the American South is the political externalization of the goal of the civil rights movement. But the ultimate goal is the establishment of the beloved community. That's basic to nonviolence. It's both and. It's purifying ourselves and purifying. There's a lot to do. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Marianne, for giving me and the rest of us the opportunity to be together, because sometimes we can feel alone, and it's really wonderful to be together with all, and you enabled this, so thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say one thing to that. First of all, I assure you, you're not alone. And I was already telling you about my experiences around the country, but more than that, I believe with all my heart there is a critical mass of Americans that if somebody had the right campaign and was the right person and had the right money, could be harnessed. And it is my sadness I was not successful at that. But I think the American people, don't lose your faith in the American people. Know that there are people who are just as concerned as you, by the way, on the right as well as the left, right? And we all need to cultivate more gatherings where we're just going to get together. Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to mention that New Yorkers, we had 10 days of early voting. It started last Saturday. You can vote tomorrow and Sunday at your early voting locations in your county. You cannot vote on Monday, but Tuesday at your regular polling place.
Really? That's interesting. Not on Monday, huh?
No, the day before the election, they need time to set up the machines and everything. So.
And tell your friends. It's kind of a good thing. Listen, nothing, I think young people need to be reminded. These things, they take time. You know, you don't get what you want in one election season. But that is also coupled with the fact that this is an urgent moment. This is an urgent moment. Okay, who's next?
Just really quickly. One of the things in your last previous remarks, you know, where you are in your campaign right now, and just how important it is not only important the people are behind you. And meaning that there's this force multiplier that is happening with every place that you are going, all the hearts that you are touching. It's just building, this momentum just keeps going and going and going. And this room full of people, there's so much potential to to multiply this force through, and I dare to say, as Marianne had said earlier, forwarding her social media messages. There are opportunities also, certainly there are donations, funding is extremely important, but there's also the people power, and I hope you don't mind me saying, like I'm a volunteer and other people, we need you, and
The donation envelope is you leave, and
exactly,
$5, yeah.
exactly. So, I don't know, I just wanted to say that, just encourage you to come along.
Yeah,
with this
I mean,
journey,
if this
so.
were, what happened was, people who are political junkies are thinking about this all the time, but most Americans don't start thinking about this stuff till right before an election. And so there was such a, it has to be Biden, it has to be Biden, it has to be Biden, and I see you and I'm gonna mention it, I promise. It has to be Biden, it has to be Biden, that it took time before, like now it is Biden, and people are like, wait, maybe we should talk about this. So, thank you. Thank you. But it picked up in various ways. People pick up the baton, run for office, and so forth. Now, also, I want to point out, because I was remiss not to do this before, and she's absolutely right, the ERA, the president, and I will ask you to tell the website, one of the first things I would do as president is to call the archivist and direct the archivist to publish the Equal Rights Amendment. We have the ratification. What we need is the president to do that. That's a very important issue. And I'm going to ask this woman right here to please say, what is the URL that people go to sign the petition?
Publishtheera.com.
Publishtheera.com.
Most people don't understand. So so the Equal Rights Amendment for the federal government was January 27th of 2020, Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. We added the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution. Women are equal citizens under our U.S. Constitution today. Trump was in office and he derailed publication of an updated Constitution. When Biden got into office, the expectation was that he would publish have the Equal Rights Amendment published. He has not. The reason we are getting all of this rollback of civil rights in the court system is because the courts are saying, hey, we've got the old Constitution, and in the old Constitution, it was written by and for men, it was amended by and for men, and women are not equal. But with publication, the courts have a new Constitution in their hands, which says we're equal citizens. Marianne Williamson has been fabulous, been following her around, but she has said that on her first day in office, and I believe her, on her first day in office, she will make the phone call to the federal archivist, and we will have our Constitution published with the 28th Amendment, which says the government cannot discriminate based on sex.
I would take every opportunity possible to make sure that everybody was clear. There's a mother in the White House, and you can take that however you want. Does anybody else have anything to say, or to ask, or to bring up? Anybody over here? You've all been very patient. Okay, a couple of more over here. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, and thanks for coming. I have a question about universal health care or Medicare for all. Would that include things like that are not currently covered, like medicines that really work, like nutrition and all that?
I want to brag for a minute. I'm very excited about this. I want you to go to go to Marianne2024.com, look at issues, and look at my whole health plan. So this is the deal. We now call it Improved Medicare for All, so that it includes eyeglasses, hearing aids, and dental and mental health. But I also said before, we have to do more than just provide a way to treat sickness. And you might have heard me say on the debate stage last time when we had debates, that we didn't have a healthcare system, we had a sickness care system. We have the highest rate of chronic illness of any advanced democracy. A lot of this has to do with the carcinogens in our food, for instance. You probably read the viral article about the ketchup bottle in the United States versus a ketchup bottle in Canada, all the ingredients that are allowed in other countries, etc. But this is what we have in my whole health plan, because it is as geared towards creating a healthier society as it is geared towards treating sickness. This is the deal. You go to the doctor. Most doctors in the United States have received a Western medical education, which tends to be primarily focused on pharmaceutically based allopathic remedies. Under my plan, it becomes mandated by law. There is a universal database. Whatever condition or sickness that the doctor diagnoses, and whatever the prescription that doctor might give you in terms of pharmaceutical allopathic remedy, all of which is now covered because we have Medicare for all, it is mandated that you will be shown this database. Whatever that sickness or condition is, if there is a non-pharmaceutical, non-allopathic remedy that has been proven to be anywhere near as efficacious, it is legally mandated that you were told about it, and your insurance will cover that as well. And it is so odd that anybody sees that this is where we've been so bamboozled. The purpose of public policy should be to help people thrive. By the way, let's be very clear. Medicare for all would expand the economy. It would expand the economy. And also, and businesses wouldn't have to worry about it, think how many people in the United States work at jobs they hate. But it's the only job they can get where they get the health care benefits. Money comes from the creativity and the productivity of the American people. You want to expand your economy, help people be happier. Think of a Montessori school. Little kids, we were those little kids. Wanted to play with things, wanted to do things, and we just have numbed ourselves and we're just pushed down. People are just living in such a state. But it's hard to be happy when you're not eating healthy food, when you don't know what will happen if your kids get sick, and this is chronic over and over, and you have, even when you were talking about, you no longer work in the public, right? You're probably working private, because a shrinking group of Americans can afford to put their children in a school where they feel more of a guarantee of the right education, to afford higher education. A shrinking number of Americans can easily afford health care. But once again, you've heard me say it all night, it'll change when we change it. Anybody else? Was there? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm one of those old people you mentioned that they had seventh grade. Yes. We learned that there were 3 divisions of government, right? There's the executive, and that's the president, basically. And then there's the legislative, which are all the people that we elected, and for whatever reason, and they go there and they take their bribes. Then there's
Not all of them.
Then there's the third, which is the judicial. Now, what I learned was that the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land.
Microphone to your mouth.
Okay, yeah. Was the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court. These justices were elected for life. And that would preclude any possibility of their being corrupted. Okay.
It hasn't quite worked out that way. But also we need to remember that when the Constitution was written, people didn't live as long either, most of them. But we all know the ethics rules that apply to every other level of the judiciary do not apply to the Supreme Court, do not apply to the Supreme Court because it was assumed that they would be above reproach. We see the incredible lack of integrity that has already been demonstrated. We see how corporatist the court has become. Of course, Trump was able to appoint 3 people and so forth. Now, when there was a lot of concern on the part of Franklin Roosevelt about the very same thing in terms of the Supreme Court, he threatened to put more people on the court. There's nothing in the US Constitution that says it has to be only 9 people. So Franklin Roosevelt warned them, I'm gonna pack the court if you guys keep acting this way. That made them back up. So he didn't make good on his promise because he felt he didn't need to. I would not hesitate to make that statement. I absolutely would not hesitate. When you have decisions like the Dobbs decision, and so much else that they've already started doing, I would have no problem, saying. In fact, I was reading something not that long ago. It was very interesting to me, and I hadn't realized it. It's fairly recently in American history, and I can't remember where I was reading this, but it was a very serious book, some kind, that it's fairly recently in the United States that the Supreme Court has become quite such a final authority. It's supposed to be three co-equal branches of government. That's why, for instance, if you have a Democratic president plus a Democratic House and Senate, you'll be able to codify Roe v. Wade. So Supreme Court doesn't have to be the final say, and I think we've all gotten a little too used to thinking it. Does that make sense? And also, I think there's a lot of talk, and I do agree with that it shouldn't necessarily be a lifetime appointment. And also, I think it's for good reason that we're all talking about term limits for the Senate and the House, and I think the younger generation will definitely get rid of the Electoral College.
So, thank you for all of your thoughts and clarity and helping us all come together in that respect. January 6th.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken about it at all, and with the dilemma that a lot of people have about November, it's pretty clear to me because of January 6th. I worry so much about that happening again, or the need to never have that again because of the fear of fascism. And so I'm just putting that out there and just wondering your thoughts on that.
My thoughts about it are, I'm sure what everybody's thoughts are. Deep concern. Those among us who pray should be praying for your country. You're right, we've already seen anything could happen over the next few months. And I think everybody gets that. But the more of us are in our best minds, when Abraham Lincoln was talking about the better angels of our nature, he was born before Freud was. So when people talked about angels and demons in those days, they were talking about psychology. It's just that was their description of the inner life. We obviously have angels of our better nature, but we obviously have what religiously we call the demons of our lower nature. But somebody already mentioned that there are convictions that are force multipliers. So let me just leave you with this. I think this is a good way to wrap this up. I don't want to take advantage of your patience here tonight. If 10 people hate, and that's what you're talking about, what if the haters go nuts because it's not what they want? Okay? If 10 people hate, I think in this country far more people love than hate. I think in this country far more people want us to be a good country than want to see this country disintegrate into anger and fear and separation. But conviction is a force multiplier. So if you have 10 people who are convicted behind hate, I mean, think about a terrorist. I can't afford a kind of, sort of, sometimes when it's convenient, committed terrorists. These people are convicted, and they've proven that they will do whatever it takes to execute their vision, right? But if you have 10 people who hate with conviction, and then you have 90 people who say, yeah, I think this is good. I do think there should be greater justice, and like on Thursdays, I've got from 2 to 4, here's my cell number. I could probably do 2:30 to 3 in there on Thursdays. We won't make it. We won't make it. So we have to become as convicted behind our dedication to know that this is not nothing, this is serious here. I am so aware, every time I get on a stage like this, there are many countries, particularly as a woman. If I got up here in front of you and said a fraction of the criticism of my government that I have, I would be hauled off, imprisoned possibly, and worse possibly. This is serious. But if we awaken, so you said none of us can know, but all of us can the election itself in a deeper place. Does that make sense? I remember the author Paul Hawkins saying, we're living at a time of blessed unrest. It's okay that we don't have all the answers. For me, because I am a woman of faith, you know, there's a prayerfulness involved there. By the way, I also want to say one thing about that. Legally, and this is not a bad law, it makes sense, but legally, if you are on my Marianne2024.com mailing list, I cannot contact you after the campaign, like any of my other stuff. So if you are interested in the other work, such as the spiritual work, please also sign at Marianne.com. Because, you know, and that's not bad, it's a good thing, but I do want you to know that. And we all have to hold it from a deep place. And if we do, we will pull off the same kind of political miracle that the abolitionists did, the same kind of political miracles that the women's suffragists did, the same kind of political miracles that the labor organizers did, and the same kind of political miracles that the civil rights workers did. I also want to make one plug beyond that. This idea of thinking religion and spirituality has nothing to do with social justice flies in the face of American history. Among Americans who were white abolitionists, much of it emerged from the early evangelical churches in New Hampshire. Many of the women who were leaders of the women's suffragist movement were religious Quakers. And Dr. King, of course, he was a Baptist preacher. So throughout our history, we've had great social justice movements and great forward strides that emerge from those deeper wells of faith. And that is because faith itself is a belief in that which is yet unseen. It is a belief in what is possible, even when all material evidence would tell you it's not. And that's why it is so important that we stand on the idea that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We ourselves must be, however, the benders of the arc. And I can say here tonight, and I've said this before tonight, I want you to know, and I hope you feel this way about each other. This is it. Just people coming together in a very adult way, thinking about these things. That level of thinking precedes right action. That's Buddhist, that's Gandhi. It's very serious philosophical perspective. Go deep enough into the vertical, you'll know what to do in the horizontal. Clarify your heart, clarify your thinking, and you will kick ass like a real American.
Marianne's books are for sale at the front counter. I'm sure she'll sign them if you ask. And anything else you see in the store that is available, and we hope to see you again.